Hey, what is up, everyone? It's Rich. All right, welcome to Super Fun Sunday. So it was interesting. I was gonna do like a continuation of the Image comics thing, and I was like, "Oh, I could do steampunk." Then I started thinking, I was like, "I don't know if steampunk is technically a Image book. I don't think it is. I think really at this point, DC had taken over. It's considered a cliffhanger book. So these were, I think, creator-owned projects." But yeah, I've done steampunk videos before for both Patreon and for regular YouTube. So some of these files you may have seen, but I figured it's Sunday. We'll just do it as a super fun Sunday, and we can look at some really awesome art, and with no lettering too, which is actually very cool. So these are like production files that I have of the book, for, like they'd send them for corrections and to make sure that everything was looking good. We went through a series of 3 different colorists, maybe 4, but it initially started out with a company called Badass, which was Rob Rowe and Alex Blayart. And then I think that we used Studio F for an issue or 2, and then James Rochelle, rest in peace, finished the series with us. And I could be omitting a colorist along the way. I'm not 100% sure. I didn't have the comics handy to go through them, but overall, we're just gonna enjoy the like content. Chris is so creative. I always talk about like just he's such an unusual comic book artist, and really like, I mean, he came up through Vertigo, went to Marvel, did some really interesting stuff on Generation Next and Generation X, and then came to Wildstorm and did Steampunk for 2 years, and he's been with Marvel ever since. So he's been with Marvel for like 20 years now. And people always ask me, is Steampunk ever going to end? Because there was another 12 issues to do. I don't know. I mean, I've heard them say that they've talked about it, and then years go by, and I don't really pursue it at this point. But anyway, let's just enjoy the art. So this is a beautiful page from issue 2. I mean issue 1, sorry. So I think the second page from issue 1. But God, I remember, so we did a preview issue which was called Catechism, that was about 16 to 18 pages of art before we did the first issue. And it's in the collected edition. If you get the trade paperback, there's 2 that collect the full series. You can you get that in it, and it's actually very cool. It introduces a lot of the characters, and it's a comic book. It's just maybe 1 or 2 pages shy of a full one. But yeah, so Chris did this himself. So this shot of the church with the zipatone, that was not my work. That the artboard came and it had that pasted down on it. So I don't know if he did that like on the computer, or like a copy or like a printer or something like that. But occasionally he would lay zip down. So before I would get a page, there would be like a little bit of zipatone. I don't remember personally using zipatone on Chris's stuff, or screen tone, we'll call it. But occasionally he would send down a page and it would have that stuff on it. He would do these like little creepy things sometimes in the gutters that were really fun. It's like a little monster guy with like some sort of like lighted hood thing, some tattoos on his arms, and he's just poking into the shot. This is not really a part of the story, as far as, I mean, I guess could be, but yeah, he would do these like little weird things. But this is from, I think, either issue 10, 11, or 12, somewhere around there. Really cool shot. Just a great looking perspective spot. I'm gonna have to shut this door. This guy's talking. Shut up. All right, so let's see. Yeah, I love this stuff. All the stuff down in the mine was it's so cool looking, and man, the colors really just brought it home, I thought. And again, no lettering on these, so it's very fun to see, and something that you're just not going to be able to find on the stands. This is full bleed. I mean, you're even really seeing stuff that didn't even print in the book, because these gutters would all be trimmed off. So you're even getting a little bit of extra, like this stuff, you wouldn't normally see. So it's fun. I try to do nice things for you guys. So this is a black and white. This is my inks over Chris. Very detailed page. Not a super high-res scan of it, but pretty good, all things considered. Back then, I wasn't as computer savvy. I mean, you're talking 2002. I just literally had gotten a home computer in around 1999 or 2000, so I didn't really know what to do. Hard drives didn't have that much space either, so you weren't going to want to save a file that was like 500 megabytes. You have 20 of those on your computer. Computer is like brain dead. Back in the old days. This is so cool. A lot of times the way that Cole looks in the book will kind of shift. It's funny, like sometimes he'll get really, really exaggerated, and then other times it's a little more like I guess we'll call it like normal Bachalo. But it was interesting how he would really distort things sometimes. We'll see if we've spotted any. This is a pretty cool double page spread. Quite a few double page spreads in the book. First issue I think had 2, maybe 3, and as we went along there wasn't as many, but like issue 5 was a big war, so there was quite a few there. Again, this isn't a super high res file, but you can see me kind of doing some sort of interesting, kind of more like they're crow-quill lines, but I did them almost like I chopped them up a little bit. So he's trying different things with his work. I always wanted to ink him rougher, and he kind of wanted it more clean and tight. And I was such a big fan of what he had done at Vertigo. Again, this isn't a super high-res scan. This Zipatone here, again, was something that he put down. So again, what it looks like to me that he would do, and I'm not 100% sure the process, a lot of times these would look like they were inked with like Sharpie. So like this area would all be very roughly inked with like Sharpie, and then he would have the Zipatone like right over it. So I don't know, not 100% sure how he did it, because I'm trying to remember. Sometimes it was like a paste up, meaning that like the whole area was like pasted down. But this was inked on the thing, and sometimes he would leave parts uninked, and I would have to ink it. So, this is a real nice page. I think this is from, I was gonna say this is from issue 12. This is so good. Really, really nice. God, these drawings right here are awesome. Their faces. This is so high res. Look at how big we can get on this and how clear it is. I'm on like a 27-inch monitor sitting about like 10 inches from it right now. This is humongous. Oh, that's so cool. Really fun to see the colors too. I think, honestly, I like seeing it this way. There's definitely something to be said for the digital files being sharp as a tack. Although the printed book really did actually print quite good. Wasn't always the case. I definitely had books leading up to this where they would print dark or too thin or whatever. The colors seemed like too heavy-handed, but as Steampunk went along, they really seemed to dial it in, and that's normal though. Actually, that's not uncommon. Where if you do a run on a book, you're really able to dial it in. The hardest thing is doing a bunch of issues before you've seen it in print, because once you see it in print, then you go, oh, okay, like those lines are a little thicker than I thought, or that needs a little bit more attention. It's not as detailed as I want. This is interesting right here. It looks like something wasn't colored that was inked. This is Cole's hand. Oh, okay, he's looking down in here. Oh, this is his boot. Yeah, he didn't color the rest of his boot. This is his boot and the buckles on his boot. I never noticed that before. See? You live and learn, friends. Live and learn. Hopefully everyone's having a good Sunday so far. I bet it just got better because I put this video up. Oh, this is a nice high-res scan of this. I love this spread. It's so cool. It was so fun to ink. I always encourage people when they're learning to ink that I always say that like you have to have every line matter. Like everything that you put down should be a nice looking line, whether it's a tiny line or a big line. And like on a piece like this, I mean, that's really how I'm approaching it. There's nothing that I put down is like just a drawn line, meaning that I don't just just put like a flat line. I'm always trying to have some sort of personality or character to every stroke that I put down, and ultimately that adds up over a full piece and gives you a very, very dynamic view. You know, when you see it in the book, it really has conviction, and it's an incredibly important thing. And it's easy when you're doing this much detail, and I've worked on pieces that are much more detailed than this, to drift. You know, you got 5 or 6 lines in a little area, and you're like, you know, I don't, this grass, whatever. All of it's got personality. This all has personality. Everything does. This is I don't think actually on the board. This is like something that it looks like a printing error. I think this is a photocopy taped together, and there's something there. But even this is so cool. And I'm not even I don't consider myself to be the best at that. I think that there's other inkers that go in and are really, really like on it with that. As I went along in my career, I was always trying to get looser with my stuff to some extent. Just because I think that there's an interesting balance that you can have between tight and loose. And it just gives it a little more, to me, it's a little more interesting, where stuff that's too accurate, I think, can sometimes look a little boring. So you have to find a balance, you know. And sometimes it's piece to piece, you know. It's not always like that. The other thing that we did too is we had pretty bold lines. You know, I talked about that sometimes when I'll see original art, it looks a little flat in black and white, but you can see there's actually a nice warm quality to these inks, where everything is clear. It's got like kind of a 3-dimensional quality to it. Which is difficult to do. These pages can sometimes look very, very encrypted. In particular in pencil, when you would see them, it was a little bit of a jigsaw puzzle trying to make heads or tails of things. And so different techniques that I would use is I would use halos on his stuff to separate things. But halos can start to make things look more busy, because now you're creating more shapes and more sections of things, you know. And sometimes I would have to put not halos around halos, but like halos around stuff that you would almost think wouldn't need a halo, and then you really starting to turn things into puzzle pieces. And here's the color version of this. So all the flashback sequences in the book were always done in like a gray tone thing, which was very cool and a real kind of effective storytelling thing. I'm sure it had been used before, but I don't know if I had seen it done on any of the image books, we'll say. Colors on this are really cool. It's really interesting. This file almost feels like it might not have been totally done. There's little spots that are making me... because I don't remember it printing exactly like this. It's the only reason that I'm kind of noticing that. Who knows? Sometimes on the flashback pages too, it would fade into color. God, this is so good. I know, like I said, I know there's a lot of hardcore steampunk fans. I will say this to you, and usually I'll throw this out in any steampunk video. I've got a book called Great Game that I've written that is like my #2 with Blaster Kid, and if I do the Great Game at some point for you guys, you'll get your steampunk fix. So don't worry about if for some reason steampunk never happens, because I've got an adventure story that really, I think, captures the spirit of this type of book. So and I will do it. I will definitely do it, because I've wanted to do it for a long time. At different points years ago, it was actually kind of like the #1 thing that I thought I could stick with for a long time. But Blaster Kid is just way too fun not to do also. So man, the colors on this are great. So cool. I love the this shine around the light. Man, the glow is really, really cool. the texture. Had a little bit of trouble with the textures on the early issues. It was a different coloring team, but they were like almost like statting in texture over form, and it wouldn't work a lot of times because the actual texture wasn't bending with the form. We had like some cylinders, and they just put like a texture over it, and so it made everything feel flat because this is a curved object. If you think of I'm doing this with a mouse, but you know what I mean? Like if you have a curved object and you put a texture over it and it's flat, that's not the topography of a sphere or cylinder, excuse me. And yeah, I really didn't like it because it made it look like the inks were wrong because the colors are so overwhelming that yeah, it was like it made it look like. See, you can kind of see that same kind of idea here, though. Is some of this, it's cool texture, but it's not really laying with the form. These are cylinders, and these textures aren't going the same way. But again, it's a different coloring team on the first issue, or first couple. I think they did the first 3 books. Maybe more. Maybe they did the first 5. Ah, this is great. Look at this. Oh, this is so good, too. Oh, man. I never even noticed this, like, almost like confetti, like, sparkle on these before. Man, that is really, really cool looking. And I love this. Man, that lighting on her face is so badass. This is cool, too. Yeah, coloring was really starting to explode at this point. Like, the digital coloring thing had been around for a while, and people were really starting to get very creative with it and doing a lot of cool things. This is nice, too. Very subtle. I can grab my stylus so I've got a little more accuracy with these things. This is funny. Frog on a plate or something. Creepy! So this is Scum, and this is Rabid Randy, and they're coming in to help Cole Blacksmith, and these are called bot bugs, these little glowing little robot bugs. Man, this is nice. Such a good book, man. Very weird story. Dense. The lettering was challenging for people. We're not seeing the lettering on these boards, obviously, but yeah, it was lots of different fonts and stuff like that for the different characters when they would talk. Oh, this is really, really cool. This is from a photocopy, so it's you know, not like a scan off the original, but I can tell it's a photocopy by this. Still looks pretty good. Photocopies can look a little flatter, a little dull, but I think overall the like lines and stuff like that hold up pretty good. It was funny is I remember really trying to be conservative with like crazy detail on his stuff. It was interesting because like I said, I knew he liked the stuff cleaner, and so you know, I was always mindful of trying to make it tight, but God, in the back of my mind, I just wanted to make it looser. Said I had really liked the stuff that Mark Buckingham did on him. It would have been too wild though for this book. Like it would have been a little too gritty, but you know, again, and that's a very, very difficult combination to have, is the tight and loose and actually make it work. It really is actually kind of difficult because the language has to be consistent throughout, or it's like the loose might look like you're being careless, and then the tight is like, well, why was this so like good and the other stuff is so weird? So you have to really kind of commit to like when I do this, this will be loose. When I do this, this will be tight. When I do this, they're abstract concepts, but it's in broad strokes. That's kind of what you're doing. Okay, we saw this. There might be a few doubles in here. So this is a different coloring team, I'm pretty sure, and I mean, you can see it's different, like a different approach. The way that they do the cuts and stuff like that are different. These were nice issues. This is I can't remember who this colorist is, but I think they did 2 books, maybe more. I don't know, but yeah, I thought that this was nice too. Different though, a little flatter, you know. But again, you can see, you know, I'm pretty mindful of my calligraphy. We'll call it, like my lines. You know what I mean? I'm just not going in and just flicking lines around. I mean, that's sort of what I'm doing, but I'm mixing it up. You've got thin to thick. You've got, you know, there's a taper on the lines. I mean, this is a bitmap, so they're pixely, but you know, I mean, there's actually like a shape to them. So yeah, you don't want the meandering lines where it's like this. And again, this is where like I don't get super earlier in my career I would get very particular about like feathering, but at this point I really wasn't as concerned about like each feathering line being like exactly the same as the next one. I did a lesson before I actually shot this video, and I was saying that there's a part of me that might go back to the super anal feathering at some point, but we'll see. I might do it for like a series of pieces or something like that. I still don't think it's necessary for a book. I never really found that it was like worth it. You know, there's just more interesting techniques that can use. I think this is fun. So this was an interesting piece. I usually will share this story. So this looks like a pretty like cut and dry piece. It's not a ton of detail. It's not you know, like it doesn't look super complicated. Chris said this was very challenging to lay out for him, and in fact, I think he might have spent a couple of days really kind of trying to figure out exactly what he was going to do with it. You know, you would never know that, I don't think, seeing it in the book. You know, to me, when I saw it in pencils, I was like, oh, this will be kind of like an easier, fun piece to ink. You know, obviously I'm not laying it out or dealing with the anatomy and lighting and all the different things that he had to handle, composition, etc. Yeah, you know, so it's interesting. But that is, you know, that's the hard thing with penciling. You start off with a blank sheet of paper, and you know, then you're creating these incredible worlds. It's very cool, you know, and that's where a lot of personality and stuff like that you can inject in a piece. So this is from issue 5. This is a double page spread. This is, I believe, still badass. So these are the original colorists, and they were really doing some great shit on this issue. Issue 5 was like I don't know if it was a double sized issue. I'm nearly sure it was oversized, but this is, I think, pages 2 and 3 from the book. So yeah, some wild stuff. This took a while to ink. I'm trying to remember. It probably took 3 days. We'll zoom in and kind of peruse. But yeah, isn't this cool? Man, I was like, I really do enjoy seeing this stuff, and more likely than not, when I revisit it now, it generally is for like a video. Although I occasionally will break this stuff out and kind of bring it into my office and sort of have it around for a month or two and check it out. It just doesn't really relate to the way that I'm drawing, you know, Crystal Planet. It's really not that similar to what I would do on Blaster Kids. So there's, you know, other than the fact that it just looks cool, it's not really like techniques that I use right now. So, you know, but it's still, I like what Chris drew. And that is an interesting thing about being an inker too, to be honest, is you know, you still ultimately are a fan, and so, you know, some pieces you'll like more just because of the way the penciler drew it. You know, there's pages that I like just because I think it's a cool drawing. You know, not even my inks. Just I really like what Chris did. You know, this is so cool. These guys are so funny. Oh, I love these two characters. It's like so creative. All this tech and stuff like that is so cool. Yeah, really fun. Okay. Oh, here's the colors. Really nice. Look at that. Man, this is nice. Memories. Well, hopefully this will inspire people to draw and have fun. Because that's what it's about, yo. Drawing and having fun. Comics is a lot of work. You draw stuff like this, you can have a lot of work and also be quite rewarded for a job well done, you know. This is cool. I remember this page. The girls, the ladies. J. Scott Campbell and I did a variant cover for, might have been issue 1 or issue 4. I can't remember, but had these 3 on it. The colors on this too are so badass. I'm pretty sure the colors are coming up in a second, but yeah. See, this black dot is on the photocopy, I think. But areas like this, I think I could have done better on. was like I said, I was feeling tentative, and so like I was scared to put too much, but I should have definitely have done a nicer job on this ruffle in here. It just needed a more interesting line. I needed to think of it more like this in here, and I really kind of went in and more just sort of drew like the outlines of things, which is a no-no, and things that I encourage people that are learning to try to avoid. Don't just draw lines. These kind of have that vibe to me too. There's a little bit of personality to them, but these lines kind of suck. And this is bad too. And this is bad. Trust me, I'm ruthless with my own stuff. I have no problem pointing out what I did that was garbage. The colors on this are so good. Chris had a tendency, I'm not making an excuse for myself, but Chris definitely had a tendency, and you see it with his Marvel work, where sometimes he would kind of hold on to pages, or he wouldn't finish books until kind of the last minute. And so sometimes you were a little bit under the gun as you got into the book to, editorial was starting to sniff around and be like, when he's done, we need these pages like fast. And you're like, oh shit, here we go. So, this is great. Absinthe about to put on his fancy wig. It's funny that she's wearing it. She's wearing his wig, and then he like grabs it off of her head, and he puts it on. I don't know if we'll have the follow-up page, but this is so cool. Oh yeah, this is great. This is from issue 1. This is one of my favorite little sequences. I always point out how neat it is. So they start running up here. They climb down this little ladder. They run towards us. They run over here. They climb into this panel. They fall through the panel. They come out here, and then they run into the page and end up going over a fence. Like, how often do you see stuff like that in a comic book? I mean, seriously, that's some pretty fun, just unique storytelling. I mean, I don't know if Joe asked for that in the script, or if Chris just was like, that would be an interesting way to tie this all in. But he did this type of thing on multiple pages throughout the series. There's a great double page spread with a little train tracks and these like carts or whatever they call them that like go on train tracks. Not a train, but like the if you were mining or something, the carts, I guess. But really cool. So let's see if this is the color. Yeah, look at this. Man, the colors are so sick on this. And again, not having the lettering really lets us have an opportunity to soak in just how awesome not only the drawings are, but the colors too. They throw something. I think maybe he chucks a gun, as it looks like he's holding like a pistol here. I think he throws a gun into this too, which is a nice little touch. What do you think? Pretty awesome, right? Look at a little fishy. He's so fun. Oh my god, Chris is great. And again, this is Zipatone that he put in. So when I would get the page in pencils, that would be there. And I think was this the page? No, maybe not. There was one where I remember he took like a brush and he did this like big black kind of like streak. It might have been in Catwoman. But 99.9% of the inks are me. Like I said, I mean, I'll point out anything that I didn't put in, but like I said, I didn't stick that there or this. Sometimes it was actually hard to work around that stuff, to be honest. There were definitely times when, this is the same page, I just want to see one thing here. Oh, it's a little smaller scale file. This is really cool. I love the colors right here. Yeah, sometimes it was hard to work around like stuff that he would put in because it was so different than how I would ink. So if he ever did, throw like a brush ink, dry brush effect or something like on the page, it was like much rougher than what I was doing on him, and so it was interesting having to assimilate that into the finished piece. This is cool. So this is a splash from probably issue 11. I can't remember her name, but that's the bad guy. That's Absinthe, but I don't remember what her name is. The rockets on his arm. He shoots him in one of the issues. I think issue 3. There's a pretty cool sequence where he's on like the rooftops and he fires some missiles off, and maybe even later in the story too, he might use it. Then this is what it looked like in the book. So this was the credits page, I believe. So there might have been like, welcome to Crazy Town. Look at that! Oh my god, it is so cool. This guy was so badass. Mambutu X. And his bulldog with a wheelchair and a cigar. We'll see more of the bulldog, but it is funny. But the bulldog has got like wheelchair legs, and he's always smoking a cigar. Oh man, look at this. This is so badass, and the colors are great. Oh my god, it looks so good. Part of this too, like I'm not a big fan of, like I said, it's one thing that I always really was never satisfied with is I didn't draw at this point. I wasn't penciling at all, and so my drawing skills really were not very developed, and it was very difficult for me to like improvise on areas like this and come up with like things that made sense structurally with like what was going on. And so a lot of times I would just kind of bullshit my way through it. But now I can see the form that he's suggesting here. I can see this silhouette here, and it's like I just didn't know. I didn't know how to like take a black area like this and actually suggest what I would consider more effective form. Now I could knock it out of the park, but I've got a lot more drawing experience. But still proud of what I did on this book, but there was definitely I've been working professionally at this point for about 4.5 years. So, God, the colors on this are great. Here you can kind of see his thing. Everybody's smoking. It's funny. This dude's smoking. He's smoking. He's smoking. Rabid Randy might even be smoking too, although it's just not lit. It's got something. And this dude's bringing some booze. I don't know. I think on here. Really, really cool page. Look at that. Beautiful colors. God, that's gorgeous. Oh my god. It's such a shame. I'm pretty sure this is James Rochelle on these. He passed away maybe 5 years ago. Oh, it was just such a bummer, man. He was such a nice guy too. Really, really freaking sucks. Man, this is great. And he took on the book by himself, which, to credit to him, he colored all these pages. This is not a scenario where he did color guides and 10 colorists colored it. Now, he may have had someone flat the pages for him or something, but as far as I know, I mean, this is all his work, 100% his work, which is a lot of work, These were not easy. All right. Woo! Look at that. Love this. Oh my gosh, so cool. Yeah, Chris is one of my favorite comic book pencilers for sure. I've always been a fan of his stuff. I got duped by Marvel when he was doing Generation Next or X. I remember going to the store and picking up like his books whenever they would come out. And Marvel had this scam that they would pull back then, which is they would reprint the books like 2 months later with a different cover. And so you'd go to the comic book store and you would see a new issue of Generation X and a cover that you didn't recognize. And you're like, oh man, awesome, new Bachalo. And then I'd get home and I'd start flipping through it and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Because I would peek in the book just to make sure it was his art, because you don't want to buy like a variant cover and then the art inside is not his work. But yeah, I was buying so many books at that point that sometimes it would take a second to remember what you had. But I remember they tricked me twice, because I remember it happened once and I was like, oh man. And then when it happened again, I was like, never again. I will look through the book more carefully next time and not just peek. Back then, buying comics was a hustle. Like if you collected, in particular, like in the early '90s or mid '90s, it it was like shit would fly off the shelves. If you didn't hustle, you could literally have shit sold right out from underneath you. People were grabbing multiples of every book, and it was like it was insane. I mean, there really was. It was like you didn't just go to one comic book store either. You'd go to like maybe three in a day, just to make sure. And a lot of times it would happen is your store would have sold out of a book and you didn't even realize it was there, and then you'd go to like the some other place and they would have it and you'd be like, oh shit, wow, okay, this actually was worth doing. This is great too. I actually remember a lot of people being influenced by some of the panel border techniques that Chris used at this time. And this is very time consuming. This isn't some sort of digital effect. I mean, literally you have to go in and fill in blacks on all these gaps. Normally how I would ink the chains on Chris's stuff is I would grab the red Koh-i-Noor Tech pen and I would do the exterior lines. So I would still chisel my line, but I would kind of draw it like this, and then like whatever, and have the chain links, they would connect and stuff like that. But these were all hand drawn lines. I wasn't using a croquis because they had to be thick, and these though were surrounded by black, so your thickness of your line isn't noticeable on these edges because they fall into black. But sometimes, like on a technique like this, I mean, you could in theory go and actually halo this stuff too. Just depends on what's on the page. These didn't need to be haloed, but there were definitely times where I would have very, very complicated things that I would have to go back in and halo because it was a situation where they needed it, where it just seemed like it would work. I love these transitions from inside outside, or outside inside in this case. But yeah, it's like there's this big like pit here with a train that goes in a circle, and like it's almost like a Mad Max sort of arena where they are fighting, but this is under it. This is just crazy. All right. This is Faust. His name is Faust. He's like a very rocky, sort of skeleton-y type character with a flute that looks like almost like a spine that he sort of will play. It's like the Pied Piper of Doom. This is Laszlo. Remember his name. This might be Fiona. I'm not sure if it is. I'm gonna go in another folder and see what we've got there after we get through these. So we'll go for another maybe like 10 minutes or so. I didn't want to make this too long, but I thought this would be fun, Super fun Sunday. We hadn't had one in a little while, and we were kind of on a roll. Like I said, I'm not going to count this as an image 30 though, because this isn't an image book. Man, this is so great though. This definitely, to me, is sort of like the doors were closing on the sort of that image, sort of pizzazz was Battle Chasers, Crimson out there, Steampunk. Those were sort of the last books that came through Wildstorm that had the image oomph. Danger Girl, sorry. I knew there was one more. I was like, oh, I'm forgetting one. This is a really cool little sequence. I like the way that he turned the camera. It's like we kind of follow it, and then it starts to shift, and then we're turning more, and now we're behind her again. And then pretty nice cinematography. Now, someone that's more educated in cinematography than me may say that he broke a rule. I don't know. I'm not that knowledgeable. I trust my eye more. This is so cool looking though. This is great. Really, really cool. Like this. Okay. Man, some of these pages I haven't seen in forever. I don't know when I've seen this page last. I mean, I remember it though, actually, but yeah, it's funny. Mystery. Yeah, the Great Game is it's interesting. So how I came up with the idea of the Great Game is when I was a kid, my dad's friends were all fishermen. So almost all of them, that's what they did for a living. Is they went out at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. They were, fishing for tuna and all kinds of different stuff. They were scuba divers and stuff like that. So I had this idea of like a port city where like a fantasy kind of epic could sort of sprawl out from there, which, like I said, steampunk has a little bit of that sort of shipyard kind of vibe, and Great Game is sort of a globe-trotting adventure type thing. There's a lot of different continents that it deals with, kind of Lord of the Rings type thing, but really, really fun. I think people will really like it, so something to look forward to a few years down the road. I always get the vibe that he's like flipping off. He's not, but it's like the body language or whatever. It's just like you're like, is he giving him the middle finger? Oh no, he's not. Colors again are just phenomenal in this. It's kind of like liquidy without being liquid. It's got a little bit of that sort of the cuts and some of the glows and stuff like that. Just a different palette. I think the other one didn't have this panel. I think that it's on the original board, but when it was colored, they did it like in 2 different ways, something like that. I know there's a little bit of a difference to it. This is so cool, man. Oh yeah, see. I don't think that this is how it was in the book, though. This may have been a preview or something. Similar to the cover. The cover is him standing there with these multiple arms. We'll see that in a second. I don't know if I have a color version of it. This. More chain panels. Again, this is on the original board. This is funny. Look at this little guy. Like a little snake guy with a creepy tail winding around there. Oh my god, it's so cool. Nope. Oh man, that's a nice page. I love this. This reminds me of like being at Disneyland or something. Like one of the rides. The Disneyland park is actually a very big influence on me. Though those rides when I was a kid, Pirates of the Caribbean, the Haunted House, Haunted Mansion, Matterhorn, Space Mountain, all that stuff. I mean, it actually is in my art. I mean, there's no two ways about it. It really had a big impact on me. It was the coolest thing that I probably had ever done as like a little kid, is go on those rides, and so it's like it really, really like fired up my imagination, because you really felt like you were in, like going into like these worlds. Pirates of the Caribbean, right? God, the first time I rode on it, I could not freaking believe how insane that was. I still, to this day, I'll watch YouTube videos sometimes of it, because people have recorded it now, and you can watch it in like pretty like 4K. Like, it's so badass. But here's the cover. I always like that cover a lot. I think it's really cool. Okay. Oh yeah, this. So this is a spread from, I think, issue 4. So this is like the credits page. So it would have like, welcome to the Dollhouse, Chris Bachalo, Joe Kelley, Richard Friend. These are the bot bugs. Most of this, I always referred to this as like the Island of Misfits toy sort of piece. But most of this stuff doesn't really, you don't see too much of this in the book. Some of it you do, but yeah, it's kind of it's almost like its own little piece. But I love it. I own the original. I still have it. It's great. Really, really interesting. So the spread is like this. Oh, I guess like this is the double page spread, and then I think the line goes like right about there. Or actually, it's a little more over. Is it through this? I kind of remember. I've had to patch this thing together more than once for like photocopies and stuff. It might go through here. Anyway. This is the cover for 8, I think. 8 or 9. Pretty cool. Like, kind of creepier than some of the other stuff in the book. I mean, his work has a dark feeling, but it's never, I don't think, scary or sort of like off-putting. Some people don't like horror, you know, and dark stuff. So it's, you know, it's a little bit of a balancing act that you use when you do it, you know, because you definitely will lose, you'll lose people that aren't into stuff that's scary or dark. It's definitely, there's a less of an audience for it, 100%. Quite significant, to be honest. Noticeably lower. This is such a great spread. Had this for a while. I ended up selling it at some point, but yeah, it's really wild. It's tough to read though. I mean, it's Cole and Faust fighting throughout the page. But they're just sort of flying with all these crazy poses through it. It would actually, I think I've got a color file of it that may come up, but if not, it'll definitely be a little bit easier to see in the book. But this was one of those cases where it was difficult to make it more clear, because you can see I put a little bit of a halo around this stuff, but again, what ends up happening is when you have this many pieces of things flying, swords that are outlined and whatnot, you start going in and haloing all this stuff. You're putting more information into the piece, and it becomes more and more confusing. You could see here, there's like, I put a halo around this little brick that is here, because there's black bricks like flying in here, so it's like a black brick with a circle around it. But now you've literally added almost 4 layers of detail, because you've got this, you've got the halo, you've got the silhouette of the thing, and then the middle. So that's problematic, and it starts to lose clarity, you know, when you've just got little pieces of rubble that are haloed. But sometimes it's what it took. Not I mean, that's what I think he wanted. Not took to make it more clear. Okay, we've seen that. Okay, so let me go into the folder and see. This is the stuff that we looked at. These may be the same files. Yeah, they look to be. Okay. This might be all I really have that's different. There's some black and white in here. Let's see. Yeah, we can look at these. Yeah, we'll look at these. So this is black and white. These are bitmaps though, so they're not like pure scans of you'll see what I mean. When we zoom in, they're gonna be pixely, because they're prepared for color, so the lines are yeah, these are bitmaps. You can see it here. There's no gray. Like if you see like a normal like RGB scan of a file, you'll see little anomalies. So this was the final page of issue 4. And this is an interesting point too, is back then our normal comic was 22 pages, and oversized books could be 25, 30, 35, 40, whatever they want to be. But right around this time, maybe a year or two later, DC scaled all their books down by 2 pages. And so that might not seem significant, but again, you're not expected to do the work. I always point this out, but if every month you're doing 2 less pages, that's 24 pages less a year, which is over 1 full comic, meaning that basically, like say you make $4,000 a month, you're literally losing $4,000 worth of work with the page cut of 22 pages down to 20. You know, again, you don't have to do the work. You're not working for that, but 24 pages of work to lose in a year is a lot. But most artists, myself excluded in this, didn't do monthly work. I generally would. So if I was on a book, I could do a book in basically 4.5 weeks, something like that. Like Madame Xanadu, Amy Reeder and I did it, and some nice inks, pretty clean, clear. I always felt like this piece was a little flat. I blame myself, but this one was always a little tiny bit of a miss for me. I don't know. It felt like it needed like a little bit more texture on it. So again, I'd be pretty hard on myself. Hard on. I think too, you know, I talk about this in any kind of video where I'm trying to encourage artists and have them understand like the demands of the job. There's a lot of stamina involved in doing books, and so this is the fourth issue. So at this point, you know, we've already done close to 100 pages of art. You start to get tired. You know, I mean, you're constantly on a treadmill producing art, and so that's a real good telltale sign of you know, it's great to see a #1 issue and have it look awesome. If that same team is on the book by issue 3 or issue 5 or issue 7 or issue 8, how are they doing then? Are they able to keep up the level of detail that they started with? Are they able to keep the quality? You know, are things slipping? We generally were pretty on it. I think issue 5 in particular really was like he really ramped up the insanity on that. So he might have been cooling his jets on issue 4, with knowing what was going to come in issue 5. This was always weird. I get he's going for like a fisheye kind of thing, but I always felt like that drawing felt a little distorted and kind of like the silhouette was a little odd to me. All this stuff is really cool. A lot of little panels here. I think this is Chris. I always felt like this was Chris and his wife, but Chris doesn't have white hair, but. Maybe it's just a couple. She's so cute. I love this little drawing right here. This is awesome too. This kid was so cool. This is nice too. This was pretty hard, so I can't remember this character's name, but he had like a cloak that had this like these circles on it. Every, you know, like just you can see him right there. Was a lot of work, and sometimes he had it all over the page. I think it was in issue 3 he originally showed up. Pieces like this are fairly challenging, to be honest. I was getting a little better with the bricks and stuff like that at this point, because I had to do it enough times that I was starting to, like, I knew I wasn't satisfied with what I was doing, and so I kept trying to like figure out better ways to do it, make it look more cool, accurate, or whatever. This is one of the issues where Cole's face kind of shifts for me, and it doesn't always look like the same character. I mean, he's recognizable because of his costume, but it was really starting to get like super cartoony. You can see what I mean here. Like it's just a little different. This is such a great shot right here. I love like, man, how you really get this like up sense here. This like little walkway above is awesome. This is really cool. This is great too. Damn, epicness. Oh, there we go. The bad boy team, Faust and his Faustians. Okay, I'm going to start to speed up a little bit because I need to get to work. It's 12:18. I got to call my mom, say hi, and then I need to get to work. So, the life of an artist. I've had a productive day, honestly. And it's just starting. See, we lost an hour today. Normally it would be 11:18 right now. Thanks. Whatever time thing went on. Okay. Here's Faust and his special ladies. I like this too. That was really cool. This bottom little shot of him walking. Okay, them walking into this crazy like orb thing is really cool. It was like there was a few pages that we did with things like this. I was really very careful inking these little figures and trying to make them look as nice as possible and still have like a line quality that was cool looking. This is funny too. They're so short that just the like top of their heads show. It's funny little choice. And there's them coming into the thing. That's funny, right? It's a great little shot. They're looking out a window too. The colors on this are beautiful because you're seeing the war going on outside, and so it's like cool in here, and I think like a warmer color like out here. Very nice. This is cool too. Like now we're looking into where all the people are walking into this. Bob Bug. Keeping track. The Bob Bugs are absinthe, like spies. The bad guy is absinthe. Oh, there's Batcat hiding up in there. I'm going to see if he put Batcat more than once. Is Batcat in this shot? We've got Rabbit Randy up here. So that's funny. So this is the room that they're in up here. You see him up here using kind of a weird color, but anyway, but up in this top right corner, there's Rabbit Randy looking out the window that we saw that room from before. Again, nice little touch. This guy's a pretty cool design. He's got like a ski goggles on, dreadlocks, Chris's classic checkerboard pattern. This is such a cool page too. This is almost like the scene from the trash compactor in Star Wars, because there's this creepy like snake thing in the water. It's like you almost get the impression that it's like slithering around, and Cole's like in this sort of murky, just junk pile of like stuff. And then that creepy thing. Creepy. Oh, and here's this. Again, it's a bitmap, so you can see like all the lines are like little boxes. So not a great one to look at, but you can see the shape of the spread now a little bit more. And finally, oh, this was the opening page. This is funny because this is a guy's face. It's a little hard to see, but it's almost like City of Lost Children, where this is his eye, this is his nose, and this is like kind of some buck teeth, and he's almost like wearing this contraption on his head, like this clock thing. Yeah, so this was, he always did really interesting splash pages that would lead into the double page spread that would open up the book. So, you know, although this might seem kind of weird, it's these choices of a lot of detail, way scaled back, detailed, weird compositional things. All of this stuff is interesting. The variety of these ideas is really appealing to, I think, a reader, and it makes it stand out. You know, like when there's a few artists that I think are really good, their note sometimes their work can sometimes feel one note because they're always giving you like 12. Everything's on 12. It's like the panels are very full, the backgrounds are very spelled out, the characters' costumes are very rendered and stuff like that, and it doesn't have the dynamic shift of oh, okay, like I can kind of breathe here. Oh well, this is interesting. This feels different. I think that there's something to that. So, you know, again, everybody is different though, and what you like will be different. So, all right, you guys have a great day.